Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to Tosa Talks. We'll give people a couple minutes to join us. We are live on Facebook, which is fun because we haven't been here for a little while. So hello out there in Facebook land. I'm Robin Luther. I'm with Tosa Together, and I really want to welcome you to Tosa Talks, building a diverse, thriving community. We're an ongoing Facebook Live series proudly sponsored by our generous friends at Bostik. We're excited to be back after a small summer break. Tosa Talks features 3 monthly presentations designed to provide meaningful discussions around racial and social justice issues to support the work of building an inclusive, anti-racist community. Tonight's presentation features a panel discussion with members of the Wauwatosa Sustainability Committee. As always, your comments and questions are welcome. Please use the Facebook comments section that you see under the video to add your voice to the conversation. And it's now my pleasure to introduce tonight's host, Catherine Reeby. Hi, Catherine.
Hi, Robin. Thank you. And good evening. Good evening, everyone. For tonight's talk, we are excited to welcome our guests from the Wauwatosa Sustainability Committee. My name is Catherine Reeby. I'm a member of Tosa Together, and I am also a member of the Wauwatosa Sustainability Committee. Since we have 3 guests, I'm going to let them each introduce themselves. Go ahead.
Mike, why don't you start?
Hey, hi, my name is Mike Arney. I've been with the Sustainability Committee for several years, maybe 5 years. I came to it having worked with the Sierra Club to start a small group called Green Neighbor around Wauwatosa. And we still exist in a very, very small form, but that brought me to the attention of the people at the then Energy Committee. And I was excited to have a chance to be with that committee.
Mike, you wanted to also speak about the solar group a little bit that you're involved with?
Yeah, so I've been interested in sustainability for a long time on a personal level before getting involved with community things. So we have solar on our garage, which we bought as part of a group buy within Wauwatosa. That was something that the Sustainability Committee discussed, and we helped facilitate in a small way. We also have geothermal in our house, and we have a plug-in hybrid car. So it felt easier to start at a personal level, and then before I got involved with more of the community activities. I'm an introvert. So.
Rob?
Hi, I'm Rob Zimmerman. I just joined the Sustainability Committee at the start of 2021. Been very interested in all things environmental for pretty much my whole life. It's a lifelong passion for me. My family and I have lived here in Wauwatosa for almost 30 years. It'll be 30 years in January. So we're longtime residents of the community, involved in lots of different things. And I'm really happy to be involved with this. I recently retired from Kohler Company, and I was their director of sustainability. So I bring some knowledge from the corporate world, but have been really fascinated with how some of those principles apply and how some of them are different in the community and civic realm than in the corporate world. And feel very fortunate to be able to follow my passion and contribute here in this town that I love so much and happy to live in.
My name is Steve Ostrenga. My wife and I moved to Wauwatosa a little about 11 years ago. We've got a 3rd grader and 6th grader in Wilson STEM and soon to be at Longfellow. I guess similar to Rob and Mike, I believe in sustainability. My day job for the last 12 years has been in solar, in manufacturing and in installation of solar panels. So I look at it from a business perspective. I do want to thank Robin and Catherine for this opportunity because we do believe that sustainability and equity tie together. On a personal note, besides sustainability, I think equity is very important in my personal life. My mother is Mexican, came across the border picking cotton and working in the fields, and we got to make we got to make the world have equal opportunity. And that's what we're trying to do in our community is, there's a realization that sustainability and equity tie together. And we'll be talking about that later in our discussion and presentation. But yeah, so I've been on the committee about 4 years now, or 5 years, I guess. And we'll talk about also the committee, what its mission is, how you can, if you want to be on the committee and participation and influencing sustainability measures that we're going to be trying to accelerate here in the next 3 years. So.
Thank you. It's nice to have the three of you at Tosa Talks, and we know that different bodies, entities within our city are also working towards equity, and it's nice to be able to have a chance to collaborate and work together on that. So if you would like to go ahead with your presentation, that would be great.
All right, how does it look, guys, gals? Good. All right. So just to start out, we're talking about the Wauwatosa Sustainability Committee, and this presentation is this evening on August 26th, Thursday evening with Tosa together. So, and Rob and Mike chime in here. The Sustainability Committee was founded in 2013, and we're a volunteer committee, advisory committee to council. Actually, it started as Mike, was it the recycling committee?
In 2013, it was the energy committee. The recycling committee had existed quite a bit before that, I believe, but had more or less gone dormant. So I think a few years after 2013, it became the energy and recycling committee and kind of got rolled together. And of course, and 2 years ago, it became the sustainability committee.
Yeah, and its focus, I guess, was really focused on energy conservation and efficiency, as well as recycling, with trying to increase the diversion rate. But overwhelmingly, we champion like sound practices that are environmental practices, but we promote and evaluate not only thinking about the economics as well, which is really important. So when we propose something to the city, we want to take into account that there'd be a wish list to have everything going renewable or put wind turbines in every corner, but it's just not practical. So we try to look at it from a practical perspective. We meet the first Wednesday of each month at 6:30. Since COVID, it's been virtual with Zoom meetings, but I think historically we've met at the firehouse down in the village, and it's open to the public, and anyone who would like to participate or listen and provide input, we are all about it. And we report to the Government Affairs Committee, and we output an annual report. It's usually about March every year, that it's open to the public, and it gives a guidance on what we did in the past, what we plan to do in the future, and as far as in metrics, as far as what the city has is energy consumption and spend on energy. So, Rob, Mike, anything else on the mission?
Yeah, I think we can talk about the focus of the committee, and particularly on the energy efficiency side has been on city operations.
Oh,
so that's City Hall, the library, the police station, the DPW building, and you'll see the metrics later on in the slides, but the focus has really been on city operations, but we recognize that that's only a fraction of the impact that happens in the city.
Another thing maybe worth pointing out is this origins of being an energy and a recycling committee. Those are two big strands that go through our work. And we were hoping that we'd have another committee member, Lynn Morgan, who really represents the recycling side of this, but she's up north today, so I couldn't make it.
Mike, I think that's a good segue into what the composition is of the committee. There's 3 parts. We have one alder person, who's the liaison with council, and they attend each meeting. And Rob Gustafson is the current liaison. And then we have city staff. We have it up. We've had up to 2 people participate, but currently Chuck Pomerenke, he's the city staff liaison, and he administers all the building assets. And I guess, then we've got the resident volunteers, but I think it's important to note that the city of Wauwatosa, both at the administrative level with the mayor and what is Archambault's title? The city administrator, and the everyone within the administration in the city of Wauwatosa right now is behind sustainability. I mean, they have really supported, and anything we brought up to the city, the question has been, can we do more? Can we go faster? You know, they really want to push this. Rob, Mike, you want to comment on that point at all?
Well, we'd love to have a staff person focused on sustainability in particular. So that's something we're hoping for. And we, you know, like you said, they're very supportive. Finding money for that is something that's going to be a project. Because Chuck is facilities, he's not Broadway sustainability. But yeah, everything's that's right.
Well, and I think that there's a lot of things that are going on in our community that I would consider part of sustainability, but that we don't touch very much yet. Things like the Department of Forestry, the parks, a lot of the transit kind of things with the bike sharing and scooters. And I mean, there's all sorts of things like that that are happening organically, no pun intended, within our community. And I think that's a wonderful thing. It's a good reflection of the values of Wauwatosa and how receptive they are to a broader sustainability plan, message, and vision for the future of the community. So we're hoping to, as we continue to grow, pull some of these other streams together into a more coherent strategy, and then really help them amplify what they're already doing.
And to build on what Mike Arnie was saying, was that, like, for example, the city of Milwaukee has a sustainability office where they have 3 to 5 people that their day job is to think about sustainability and how to make the city of Milwaukee more sustainable. The city of Racine also has a sustainability position that's their full-time job. The issues for Wauwatosa, you know, we're a population of, 45, 50,000 people, and there's not, how do we get money for that position to be funded out of our budget? Because similar sized cities, I'm not really aware that many that have a sustainability position occupied as a city of our size. So
There are some, but yeah, I think Egg Harbor has one, like a part-time person.
yeah, so that's something we're trying to remedy, or if anybody out there has an idea, we'll be more than happy we're trying to figure that out. So, and that goes back to, the city staff, the administration would probably have more appetite to support some of these endeavors, but everyone they have limited people and resource as is, so their bandwidth is really filled right now. So, I guess the last point I want to talk about, sort of like the volunteers that we have, or members, I should say, they come from a diverse background. They all have a passion about sustainability, but like we can go to like Mike, he explained his background, but he is also a mathematician, so he brings that aspect to it. Seth Flanders, he's got an operational background. Zoe just came on board last month, so Then Brian Marble, he was working with Morton. Was it Morton, the large
It was
EPC?
Mortensen.
Pardon?
I think it was Mortensen. Right?
Yeah, Mortensen. So, and Lynn works with waste management. So her passion is recycling. Catherine, what is your passion?
My passion is environmental issues like surrounding land use and sustainable agriculture, as well as biodiversity conservation.
Yeah. Christine Wolf works at UWM. She brings a great aspect. She's probably talking about this later, helping us get interns. And Mary Young, what gets her going is the schools and tying in the school district. And to clarify again, our focus has been historically on the city assets only, not the school district or residences or commercial aspects. We try to influence, but it's been predominantly city assets. Rob, Mike, any comment on it?
Yeah, I think that's right. I'm seeing some comments in the chat, and I'm wondering, Catherine, should we be taking these on the fly or
No, please ignore the chat, Mike. I'll
Okay, thanks,
feed them
Catherine.
later.
Okay,
Yes.
great.
Good. All right. Let's see. Ooh. Mike, do you want to lead this on the
Sure.
history?
Yeah. So this is some of the things we've done in the years we've been around. There's a member who was on the committee for a long time. He's retired at this point from committee work, but Chuck Rohr has been tracking the city's energy use since 2010, going back years before the committee was even founded, so that we know what city energy use has been in terms of dollars, in terms of carbon emissions, and in terms of BTUs, the measure of energy. So sort of the motto is, if you can't track it, you can't change it. So we've been tracking it, and it's been good. We'll get to that in the next slide.
But Mike, I'll interrupt.
Yeah.
That is very unique to have that. Like when we've circulated some of the stats to other other cities, they're surprised by it. So that is very unique to Tosa. Just something to emphasize.
Yeah, right. And this is something that, as members of the citizen committee, we can bring something because staff may not have had time. We don't have a sustainability person. So the fact Chuck was able to do that and then Seth took that over, I think we're bringing value to the city to have that. And it really helps us with our mission, keeps us focused and accountable. Since the beginning of the committee too, and as an energy committee, we've worked with staff member Chuck Pomeranke, our liaison to the staff, on helping him with his efforts to make buildings more efficient. And he's been great with that. We've at times had people on the committee who were experts on HVAC, on lighting, who have helped reduce energy use in our buildings and make them better buildings. So we'll get again to the slide that shows the dollar impact of that. Recycling has been another focus. This one, we found it hard to kind of move the needle on as much as we might like, but it's something we've always kept in mind, and we're always trying to think of new ways to improve this. But when you send stuff to the landfill, then it costs the city money, whereas when you recycle it, it can actually save money under circumstances, and it's probably better for the environment that way too.
And again, what's important, we're measuring the diversion rate. And Mike, do you want to explain what the diversion rate means?
Yeah, so that means how much of the waste stream we divert from the landfill. So we would divert it into the recycling stream instead of the landfill. And that includes measuring just the total volume of waste. I mean, if we could figure out ways to reduce that volume, that would also be great. But it is challenging. Maybe I'll throw in at this point with recycling. One thing that we do have is a nice webpage that you should look at for recycling for the city. If you find the recycling webpage, it's got a thing at the bottom called the Waste Wizard. And you can type in any kind of waste you want, mattresses, batteries, old pizza boxes, and it'll give you advice about what you should do with that and the proper place to put it. LED streetlight conversion. It's another way of reducing energy use. You may have noticed this actually because the older lights had a more yellow tint. The LEDs have a kind of brighter, whiter color to them, and they save money and energy.
And light pollution.
Right. They focus more down, and so there's not as much escaping out into the sky. Composting, we haven't sort of directly been involved, but the conversations, it's kind of nice being on the committee because you get exposed to different things. So Compost Crusaders has an operation here in the city that they pick up compost from people who subscribe to their service, and they compost it. We've also talked about using city facilities for composting. I'm not sure if Compost Crusaders is actually using the city yard right now.
But I would admit, we had Heather Call was our alder liaison, and she drove that. I mean, effectively. I think without her, she was a key figure to get the composting going in the city of Wauwatosa.
And we do have a straw ban also, which is something that
Yeah.
she also helped drive forward.
It's not a ban. It's
well, yeah, there's a ban on offering straws. You can get a
Yes.
straw if you ask for it.
yes.
Yeah, and then solar installations. Steve, with the expertise that you bring, obviously you've helped with the RFPs that have resulted in solar getting installed on the Public Works Department and on City Hall. So
And those have covered 96% of the electricity consumption that those buildings consume. So they're paying back for the city
yeah,
instantly.
Really big installations. It's neat. You can look up from the library, and it's not super obvious. You kind of have to look for it, but there's panels all over the top. I guess you can see in the picture on the lower right there. That's City Hall, and you can see there's panels all over it. And then last year, almost a year ago now, we passed a resolution saying that Wauwatosa is committed, among other things, to being 100% carbon neutral by 2050. So that again sets our direction, and it was really exciting when the council passed that unanimously. The city really does see a commitment to sustainability. It makes me proud to be here.
You know, I think adding on to that, my feeling was the energy resolution, and it's out on the city has it, or we can post it as well, but there probably wasn't an appetite to pass something like that 3 years ago through council. Mike, I'll throw that out there.
No, I think that's right. I think it's been moving, and I think they've seen that the work that the committee's done with staff in terms of, say, cutting energy use in the buildings has saved money, and we've established certain credibility in the city over time. Yeah, it's a good direction.
Do you want to talk about the green tier?
Yeah, let me mention that some of these little icons here. Wauwatosa is a member of something called Green Tier Legacy Communities, which are kind of medium-sized cities throughout the state of Wisconsin. There's probably about 25 active members, and we meet quarterly virtually to talk about what we're doing in terms of sustainability and give each other ideas, hear presentations. So that's a good thing that we're part of. Soul Smart there's an icon there too. That's a program that you can get certified as a city that you are friendly to solar installations. So it reduces what are called soft costs associated with solar. It means that the permitting and zoning type issues in Wauwatosa have been sort of streamlined to make it relatively easy and inexpensive to install solar here. It also means we have a nice web page related to solar. So if you go on the city website, then it's near the sustainability page. We'll probably show a picture of that later, but there's a lot of great resources on that web page. And then last icon there is the Tosa Green Summit. This is something that we've been exhibitors at, I guess. We've had a table at, but we got to really give credit to Jeff Rosnowski, former alderperson, former liaison to this committee. He's just created this thing, and every year he puts on this Green Summit. It's coming up September 11th. There will be exhibits from 10 to 1 at City Hall, and there's also collections for a variety of things, both September 11th and then also on the week after that, Saturday the 18th.
I do want to shoot kudos to Mike specifically because he led us into the green tier participation and the Soul Smart. He rode that horse. And the green tier, what's important about that, it provides us benchmark numbers. So when we do when the city compares a fire station, they can go to a similar size fire station to see what the energy consumption and efficiency is. What is the green? How much does it cost to become green tier? It's like
Oh,
$500.
it's free. It's a program out of the DNR.
Yes,
We had to pass a resolution through council. They approved it several years ago.
I know Catherine and Mike have these quarterly meetings are like 6 hours long. So I give kudos to them to listen, but it's a good way to see what other similar sized cities are doing or trying to do so we can benchmark on our activities as well. The other thing is the Soul Smart is a national. Again, it's a way that the solar industry and we can get deeper penetration with solars by looking at the soft costs to making permitting much quicker. To give you an example, in Germany, if today if you're sitting in your house tonight and you signed a contract to put PV solar on your rooftop, in the United States, it could take 6 plus 75 days, even 90 days from the time you sign a contract till you get it approved and electrified by We Energies. In Germany, it's 10 days. So what SoulSmart does is it's trying to shrink that time to get solar quicker on rooftops. So
I will say, honestly, the city was in a really good position. So a lot of it was filling out the paperwork because we'd actually gone through the codes several years ago, and our codes are quite up to date and quite progressive. So that helped a lot. But it did involve some other things. For instance, the electrical inspectors have now gone through an online training in looking at solar. So,
yeah. And one of the electrical inspectors who would inspect your solar system has solar on his own house. So he's an advocate. And I think he's had it on there for over 10 years. So he's an early advocate. All right. Any comments, Rob, Mike, on this? No? Mike, you want to lead this, or Rob?
yeah, sure. I guess this is from those numbers that I mentioned that Chuck Rohr and Seth have prepared. So the 3 lines here are 3 different ways of measuring our progress in terms of different ways of looking at energy use. The MMBTU is the energy itself. The one on the left, the CO2, is how that converts into carbon emissions because it relates to greenhouse gases and global warming, which is something I'm very concerned about and brought me into this whole business to some extent. And then the green one is dollars. So you'll see the trend is downward on all of those metrics. Some people are not that concerned about the energy use or the greenhouse emissions, those things, but they're very interested in the dollars. And that one's going down too. And you can see these are not small amounts in the dollars. That trend is, over these 10 years, it's at least 100,000, especially if you look at last year. Last year was COVID, so it's a little bit of an asterisk by it. On the other hand, it was also the year that we deployed the public works solar installation. It's the year that LED lighting really picked up. So I think there's reason to hope that we'll stay down at that low level going forward.
And this chart also includes other sources of energy that the city uses other than electricity. So this is fuel for the trucks and the police cars. It's fuel, the gas to heat the buildings. All of that is included in the energy use in the MMBTUs. So all of this reduction, at least in tons of CO2, is coming from more efficient electricity use within the thing, plus managing the energy efficiency of fleets and things like that, and improving the energy efficiency and operations of the buildings. So it is a multi-pronged strategy to get these kind of results.
And I guess what I'd also add is, I think the city budget is roughly $50 million to $52 million annually. So if you look at this, the activities just by the city itself cutting expenses by in excess of $500,000, that's a big number that the city is saving. So, and by measuring this, it also positions us as a city, because we're gathering this data, if we're looking for grants from either private enterprise or federal or state, it better positions ourselves because we can prove that we've done things in the past and are measuring. So there's a big importance to that as well.
Maybe worth also, again, pointing out, this is just city operations. And we would love to have a chart like this that was for the city as a whole, residences, businesses, nonprofits, hospitals. But that's a big challenge to come up with.
Okay. Rob, you want to lead this one?
Sure. So we, as Steve mentioned, report out to the council every year what we're doing, and we established some goals that we shared with them for 2021. And the first one was to complete a citywide greenhouse gas inventory. And what that is doing the same thing that we just talked about for city operations, but for the whole community. That means for residential sector, businesses, industry, the schools, everything, and have that all rolled up. And there's a methodology to doing that, but it's a lot of work. And so we are going to be working with a student, an intern from UWM, who is going to be doing this as their fall semester project. And we have lots and lots of data in lots of different places. And so it's going to be hopefully something that this person can accomplish by the end of the year. And so we will have a sense of how far do we have to go to get to carbon neutral by 2050 as a community, and then what are the sectors that are contributing to the current use. This is not unusual for cities to do this. The city of Milwaukee has done this as part of their climate strategy, and I would expect ours, although we have a different industry makeup than the city does, but in the residential sector, I would expect we'd see similar types of numbers to what they're doing per capita. So we want to have that as our starting point, and then that will help us inform our strategy going forward around where should we focus our messaging, where should we focus our programs that we develop. And so that's what I mean by the second thing, the strategy to execute the energy resolution. And we're very conscious, and not only on this committee, but I think the environmental movement is very conscious these days of having left people behind, that the discussion tends to be about, big picture things that might take a lot of resources to implement, these kind of conversions to, buying an electric vehicle and things like that. And there are people that can't afford that. And there are people that are systematically left out of those opportunities. And what we want to make sure that whatever our plan ends up being for the next 30 years, that we're consciously reaching out and including those who may have traditionally been left out of these kind of things. We strongly believe that sustainability will make Wauwatosa a much better place to live and work and raise families. And we want everybody to be part of that. It doesn't really do much good for that benefit to accrue to some people while others don't get to participate. So we're going to be proactively looking for ways to do that. And I'll talk about that in a little bit in a future slide here. And then really community engagement, things like what we're doing right now, making sure that the community knows that we exist, knows that this energy resolution is passed, and that we can start to harness some of the skills and enthusiasm of Wauwatosa residents, again, in efforts around environment, but also making this a better community. And then finally, we said we're going to engage with the school district. Obviously, if we follow things in Wauwatosa. You know, they went through a superintendent change here this year, plus the new schools that are being built as part of the referendum that was passed a few years ago. There's a lot going on. Oh yeah, and then we also had a pandemic with virtual school and everything else. So we've sort of backed off with them, but we do have some meetings set up with the school district here in the fall, and we know that the youth of this community are very interested in this subject and can bring a new kind of energy to it as well. So we look forward to being part of that.
Rob, the only thing I'd add on the specific to the school, they've been very responsive. We've historically we've talked a lot about working with the school district, but we just only have so much bandwidth. But Mary Young she came on the committee about a year ago, and she's been driving this along with Catherine as well. And I think the two big asks, if you're out there, I know there's a listening tour going on. One is we're going to be hopefully be presenting to them, and our ask is going to be that the school board form a subcommittee that is a sustainability committee at the district level. And the second, which they are going to do, they're going to look at putting solar on there's 14 school building assets, and they're going to be evaluating putting solar on those buildings. So, but if you could reinforce that if you're at a listening session with the new superintendent, that would be fantastic.
So let me just finish up here on executing the energy resolution. So we have an interim goal of a 50% municipal reduction by 2030, a renewable energy purchase goal by 2025, and then finally municipal and carbon neutrality by 2050. That's a lot of jargon. What this does is it is consistent with what science says is required to avoid the worst case of climate change. And again, we're Wauwatosa, we're a community of 50,000 people. We're not going to solve this problem ourselves, but this is our part of the problem. And this is what our part of the solution needs to look like. So the question is how to do it fairly, how to do it in a cost-effective way. So that's what the strategy is going to really help to define.
Yeah.
So I mentioned about equity. What we've also been asking this focusing question: how might we ensure equitable access to the benefits of a more sustainable Wauwatosa today and during the coming decades as we implement this resolution? And first of all, we want to make sure the community knows this is important. And certainly through the work of Tosa Together and lots of other organizations in Wauwatosa, there's been a lot of discussion about equity in different ways. Environmental justice and environmental equity is another element of that. And so making sure that we're having these conversations is really important. It was mentioned earlier that Milwaukee has an environmental officer. They call it their eco office or their environmental collaboration office. They are working on what they call the Milwaukee City County Task Force on Climate and Equity. And we're involved with that through participation in work groups, but they're really bringing this issue forward as part of their plan. So that's really important. And we want to, and again, we're surrounded by Milwaukee. We need to be part of this. This doesn't end at 60th Street. There's these issues that are regional for sure, and we need to be part of it. We need to think about housing and how that's being developed here in Wauwatosa to make sure that not only is it affordable housing, but that it's built to the best energy efficiency standards. That's taking us towards our goal, not away from our goal. We recognize that most of the housing that's going to exist in 2050 in Wauwatosa is already built. So we want to make sure that energy and water efficiency upgrades are available to everybody. And again, focused on people who can really benefit from the cost savings right away. Alternative transportation is a big deal. We're learning that we can, Wauwatosa is a walkable community, and that's really important. and how we think about transportation and work is going to change dramatically, and we want to make sure we're being proactive with that. We're fortunate to have a lot of green spaces in Wauwatosa, and one of the things we're going to measure is, how much access do people have? What's the shortest distance to a green space from where you live, and how does that map out in the community? And are there things that we can do to improve that for people, for health reasons, as well as just communing with nature? I don't know what the legacy pollution is here in the city itself. We're going to try and understand that, but also, air pollution and things like that, proximity to busy streets and highways, and how does, are there things that we can do around that, or at least call those issues out? And then finally, it's going to take a lot of work to do all the things we need to do in the next 30 years. Work means jobs, jobs means income, incomes means the opportunity to build wealth. And so the green jobs that you may hear talked about at the national level are going to exist here in Wauwatosa too. And we want to make sure our community and the members that want these jobs can get these jobs. So measuring the current conditions is another project we're doing with UWM this fall, and with the student group that's going to look at these issues and bring some real interesting perspectives to this. And we expect to have that report out as part of our 2021 report that we release early next year.
The thing I wanted to add to this is, tying into the economics with sustainability and equity. You look at a house that your electric bill has doubled in the last 15 years. It's creeped up 0.5% to 3% per year, and all of a sudden, it's eating more out of your monthly budget. And by getting maybe solar or these other forms of electrical generation, it would decrease your how much you spend out of your monthly budget as a residential. It's also important for businesses. In the 2000s, energy costs were going up between 4 to 7% per year, and we were all focused on healthcare at the time. But if you were a business owner on your P&L, the second most thing you were looking at was energy. So that it can tie in by, if we can attack this, we all win. I think some people equate sustainability or environmentalism that it costs more. Yeah, it doesn't cost more. I think that's a myth that we need to break down. It's being thinking a little bit more in the long view. And we can talk about another point I want to bring up is, with ESG and boards now looking at how they're running their businesses, because their shareholders and their customers are pushing on them to do the right thing, I guess, or to look at the environment and sustainability. If we can position our city that we are a sustainable city, we should be positioned better to attract businesses. And that goes both ways with TIF financing or building codes. When these businesses and developers want to come and be active and run their businesses in our city, we can request that they adhere to some baseline sustainability measures. Rob, you want to build off that at all? I know you were strong, and Mike.
Yeah, I think again, it's a lot of it is making sure that everyone's aware that we have the objectives that we have, the resolution that we have, and that Wauwatosa is a very desirable place to develop, housing, for instance, or to locate a business, and we want those folks to come here. We want them to bring their jobs and their financial resources and their creativity to our community. What we want also is for them to be part of the community and be part of the shared work that it's going to take to make us the sustainable community we want to be. So I think we just have to be clear about what the expectations are, and we're going to find a lot of people are going to be attracted to that, not put off by that.
We have
Any-
quite a few questions, so if we want to wrap up, that'd be great.
All right. So, one thing is what can you do, or one thing is, again, we have an open door. It's forced open. We're a volunteer open committee, so you can attend a meeting. Let us know what gets you fired up. You can stay. This will be the presentations posted in I think in the chat, but you can be kept apprised of what's happening in the city following that link. Another big thing is not only in the diversion rate and recycle, but we call it purifying the recycling stream. And the big thing is don't throw pizza boxes in your recycling bin. That's a big one. And don't put Sendex plastic bags in there. Start there. And so another thing, just consider electrifying everything that you can. And when we say that, we mean that we want everything to get electrified as far as the machines that we use, whether it be your car, your refrigerator, or your furnace and whatnot, because the next step is that the electrical generation will come from renewables. So in the next 5 years or 10 years, most everyone's going to have to buy a new water heater. So maybe you can look at a tankless water heater. For your furnace, maybe you can look at heat pumps. Look at hybrids. I've had a hybrid since 2013. It runs like a regular car. Another big thing is for your house or a business, get a solar estimate, right? And these are free. Just call up an installer and they will come and give you a free estimate, and you can learn about the technology and financing. The whole point of this is start now. So if you start looking at this now, that 2 or 3 or 5 years from now, when you have to make that purchase for that new asset that you're considering electrifying. Another thing is, we're going to be hopefully getting a lot of movement with the energy resolution. If you hear anything, if you can contact the alders or any of your politicians supporting this. And lastly is attending the Tosa Green Summit. So that's it, Catherine.
Thank you. That was a lot of good information. And I want to remind our guests that this presentation will be archived on our YouTube channel and also on our Facebook page. So you can watch again, or, the parts that you might have missed, or you want to write down something, that would be great. So I am going to start asking questions. We have just about 10 minutes, so we'll get through as many as we can. So one question, how can citizens advocate for the changes we wish to see? For example, like having a sustainability office at our city.
That's not an easy one. I mean, I think the city is aware of the situation, but I think if you reach out to your alder, that'd be the first thing to say, hey, what can be done to get a sustainability person? And at this point, it'd be great to have a full-time person, but if we even get a part-time individual, or if you find you yourself, if you're surfing the web and you see any grant opportunities that we can reach out to, that with private enterprise or NGOs, let us know.
Maybe it's, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to say, it was quite likely that we'll go before Government Affairs at their first September meeting, September the 7th. So now is a great time to be contacting your alders and letting them know that you support the work of the Sustainability Committee. We're bringing a resolution regarding national climate action and also joining with the city county regional collaboration to advocate with the Public Service Commission. So, but you can just say, we support the Sustainability Committee, let your alders know that.
Yeah, and I would just from a perspective standpoint, a lot of cities don't have formal sustainability offices, but the composition of this committee is really good. And so I think the city could get by with a part-time person if they wanted to, more so than other cities that would just say, well, that's it. We don't have a volunteer, citizen committee involved. We can help the city be successful. So you may want to share that too.
And to add, it's not normal for cities of our size, even larger cities, to have a sustainability committee.
So yay for
Yay for
Wauwatosa.
us.
That's great. Okay, so does Milwaukee County have a sustainability office that we could partner with? The county, not the city.
I'm not
That's the
aware of.
second question.
Mike, I don't think so. Do you?
Yeah, I'm not aware of one. That's a good question.
I'm not aware of one. I'm not aware of one either, but the city of Milwaukee does do countywide things, I think at times. Our third question, how do you see the transition to clean energy impact persons with fixed or low income? And I know Rob talked about this when he talked about equity. Are there any other insights?
Well, I think the challenge is going to be that in some cases, if there's an upfront investment that needs to be made, that's going to be a challenge for people who are on a fixed income. So I think one of the potential strategies, this isn't for sure going to happen, but it's been done in other places, is to provide some sort of upfront financing that allows you to pay for those upgrades out of the savings that you're going to accrue from them. So in other words, if you retrofit make your home more energy efficient, it's going to reduce your energy bill, and therefore you can take some of that savings and use it to pay off a loan that you took out to finance the work. That's one particular model, but I think we have to be really conscious of that we can't expect everyone to be able to afford some significant upfront expenses. We have to make it make sense economically for folks.
I think the only thing I would add is that We Energies, who supplies the energy, electricity, natural gas to Wauwatosa, they're transitioning to at least 80% renewables by 2040, and it'll happen faster. And what that means is, predominantly it's going to be solar moving forward. And the cost to build a solar plant is lower than to build a coal plant right now, and it just keeps on going down. So from your electric bill, it actually, We Energy should not be increasing their prices to us. But as far as acquiring, like we was talking about, whether it be a different electric run furnace, like heat pumps or tankless water heaters, I think you'll see a transition right now that we're starting. It's already in Europe, but there'll be many more manufacturers out there entering the marketplace, which will have equal, if not superior, product to what exists today and similar pricing.
And we're fortunate in Wisconsin that we have the Focus on Energy program already here that's been around for 20 years and can serve as a platform for some of these programs, as they get more aggressive.
Mike?
I guess I was just going to say, just to keep in mind what we're proposing and what needs to happen because of climate change, at least in my view, is a massive transition of the energy infrastructure of this country. It's a huge thing. And it's happening. The prices are thankfully dropping really fast on renewables, but there's still a huge transition that has to happen, and that's going to cost something. So you do have to think about these equity issues and people on fixed income. The resolution that's coming to government affairs, we think on the 7th, is for a national policy that would drive that forward by increasing the price of fossil fuels for the few large companies that actually deal with producing and importing those fuels. But then it would take those funds that are raised from putting a fee on there and distribute it to people. So people on a fixed income would be made whole. Most people would come out better financially. But you do have to look at those things because it's such a big change we're talking about making.
Okay, thank you. Our fourth question, recently Tosa experienced significant power outages due to a storm. What are the biggest climate risks for Tosa, and how is Tosa mitigating those risks?
So we had the storm come through a couple of weeks ago. I guess it was our turn. So many cities and areas around the country have suffered from storms and wildfires and things like that. And I think that statistically, these kind of things are going to be more common. I think so. There's the storm, but then there's the impact of the storm. And in the sustainability world, they talk about resiliency. And there's not much we can do in the short term about storms and severity and frequency, but we can make our power lines and power grids and water and everything that we need to survive more able to withstand these kind of things. And I think that's the challenge. And I think that you know, you look at, you know, we're fortunate, you know, in some ways, Wauwatosa and Milwaukee and Wisconsin are one of the areas that's probably been less affected than others in the United States by these kind of things. And you know, they even talk about the Great Lakes region as being a climate refuge in the coming decades, that people are going to move here instead of moving, you know, enjoying those 115-degree days in Phoenix. So I think that's something we have to plan for, not as a community and as a region, is, you know, how do we make our infrastructure able to handle these kind of storms, which we know are coming. Floods, another issue. Those of you long time remember, the Tosa residents remember when we had the floods in '97 and '98. And there's been a lot done since then to improve the sewer infrastructure, the stormwater detentions and things like that, that have made those kind of events, even though they're more likely to happen, less likely to cause the damage. And so again, that's something that the city leaders need to be thinking about. And that's something I think this committee can help inform on, but we also need citizens to be aware of what's potentially coming.
Mitigation at a residential, get a backup battery sump pump. That's what I would do. So your basement doesn't get flooded. It's not very much more money.
So.
Well, and
Yeah.
I think the other thing is you think about climate change over time. You know, we think about the heat waves in the summertime, but what's more likely to happen? Yeah, we're going to have storms in the summer. We're probably going to have some more bad weather in the winter too, not just the polar vortex kind of stuff. I'm talking about things like ice storms. You know, I lived for a long time in Indiana. That's the kind of climate we're going to have here in Wisconsin in the coming decades. So you're going to have more rain and freezing rain in the winter instead of snow, and that can, as you know, can do a lot of damage to power lines and things like that as well. So, you know, there's a lot of change that's going to happen that we need to be thinking ahead of and maybe investing a little bit more to avoid problems.
Here's a number. They say by 2075, our weather will be the same as St. Louis.
Yep.
So.
Yes, that's something that we all have to think about. And on that note, we're going to have to wrap up for the evening because it's almost 8 o'clock. There are a few more questions, but I do want to encourage our audience to feel free to reach out to any of the members of the Sustainability Committee if they want to ask questions or if they need clarification on some things. And again, I want to remind you that you can watch this again on either our YouTube channel or on the Facebook page. So I hope everyone, all our viewers, will join me in thanking our guests, Rob, Mike, and Steve from Wauwatosa Sustainability Committee. Thank you all for taking time to talk with us tonight and for sharing all your great information, experiences, and insights.
Thanks,
Thanks
Catherine.
so much, Catherine and Tosa together.
And
Thanks,
thank
Catherine.
you also to you, our Facebook audience, for your time and interest. We will do our best to follow up or to pass along any comments or questions you have included in the comments sections this evening. And as always, a special thank you to our generous friends at Bostic, whose support makes the entire Tosa Talk series possible. Remember, you can find a recording of tonight's presentation and all Tosa Talks presentations on Tosa Together's YouTube channel and also on our Facebook page. Please join us again on Tuesday, September 14th for a presentation on race and faith with our guest Rhonda Hill. In the meantime, feel free to reach out to Tosa Together anytime through our Facebook page, our website, or by emailing us directly at tosatogether@gmail.com. This is Catherine Reeby with Tosa Together, and it has been my pleasure to be here with you and our special guests. Thanks for being a part of Tosa Talks and our mutual effort to build a diverse, thriving community here in Wauwatosa. Thank you and good night.